Hello. Hi everyone. Am I audible? Hi Somil. Hello Ritik. Mona. Audible now? Okay. Sorry, there was probably some issue with the laptop. I just changed the mic and it worked. So I welcome you again to this session, the final mile, and we'll talk to you about ParaSummary today. So just a second. Actually, I'm kind of speaking relatively softly, so that could be the reason. But hello, hello. I think it should be okay now. Yeah? Okay. So I see that there are certain common mistakes that students make when they attempt para-summary questions, right? So let's discuss those mistakes first and then we'll go to the questions. Okay, and I'm sure that you'll be able to relate with some of them at least. If you feel you're not able to, or if you feel that you've identified some other error type or some other mistake, you can let me know in the chat box. Okay, perfect. Chalo fir. So these are certain things that you may be ignoring when attempting a para summary question, okay, which can then result in marking an erroneous choice, right? First things first, and I'm not saying that the rest of the paragraph is not important, but a lot of times in the opening and closing sentence, you will find vital information to your para summary, right? Because usually, when anybody opens a paragraph or closes a paragraph, they tend to mention the important stuff there, right? You would agree there. Even in RC passages, we tell you that read the opening and closing sentence of each paragraph carefully. है ना? So, this is what I wanted to highlight here. Okay. Another thing is the opinions or point of view of the author, right? So, um, what happens is that a lot of times we get so caught up in details, especially when there is difficult vocabulary. I see that students really start zeroing in on the details, okay, at the cost of, let's say, key ideas which are naturally the opinions or point of view of the author if they have been expressed, okay. So please don't get intimidated by difficult vocabulary, okay. A lot of times it may not even be the main point, so always be hungry for ideas, okay. कहना क्या चाहता है author, right? What is the point? Why has this paragraph been written, right? So always be hungry for opinions, and a very good strategy, I'm sure that you've learned through Jumbles as well. Always be on the lookout for transition words like but, however, okay, adverbs like unfortunately, surprisingly, right? They'll help you. Another thing, I think, while a lot of students by now have understood the reading part, right, especially those students who've been preparing for a while, उनको ये वाली चीज़ समझ में आ गई है. Problem क्या हो रही है that when they come to the options, they feel okay, time is less, right? So they are able to narrow down to two options, let's say, but in between these two options they feel okay, time is less, let me just mark something and proceed. No, you have to micro read. There is no alternative in a para summary question, right? तो थोड़ा सा उनको compare करना पड़ेगा. A lot of times they'll have very similar words, so you have to compare those words and see which is the better, right? So this is again something, ये आज हम इसकी practice mainly करेंगे, ठीक है? And lastly, this is a fallacy where we are always on the lookout for the ideal answer. हमें लगता है अच्छा ये x cover नहीं कर रहा, ये y cover नहीं कर रहा. So you know what? Neither of them could be the answers. This is a question, a poorly framed question. I can't mark it. Let me just proceed. Right? Sometimes this happens कि कोई सा भी सही नहीं लग रहा मुझे. A lot of times you'll not have the ideal answer. Something that I've been telling you right from the beginning. You have to eliminate and find the most appropriate answer. That's it. ओके तो आइडियल के पीछे नहीं भागना है हमें. तो ये चार चीज़ें आपको ध्यान रखनी है. आई विल स्पीक रिलेटिवली सॉफ्टली टुडे. आई हैव अ कोल्ड एंड वाटरी आइज एंड स्टफ, ठीक है. सो लेट्स अटेम्प्ट द क्वेश्चंस एंड दिस इज़ हाउ योर इंस्ट्रक्शंस लुक लाइक इन द एग्जाम एज वेल. तो चलो चलते हैं हमारे फर्स्ट क्वेश्चन पे. ठीक है, सो हियर्स अ पैसेज फॉर यू. लेट मी सी व्हाट यू मार्क एज द आंसर. ओके, स्टार्ट. Okay, I've got my first response. So Khushi says B, Simran says A. All right. Mudit A. Okay. A, all right. C, okay. So Mudit Goyal says C. A. Let's discuss. Okay. Now, trust me, this is not a difficult question. ये आई अंडरस्टैंड एब्स्ट्रैक्ट है, फिलोसॉफिकल है, बट द ऑप्शंस एक्चुअली मेक इट अ मॉडरेट क्वेश्चन, नॉट अ डिफिकल्ट क्वेश्चन. लेट्स सी हाउ. All philosophers in the existentialist camp shared the same mission: to make us recognize that human beings are free to choose not only what to do when faced with moral choices, but what to value and how to live. Tell me, um, are they kind of pressing each person? Are they imposing? Are they pressurizing each person to absorb freedom? They want these facts about human freedom to be not merely accepted but absorbed by each person. So they want this, that these facts are absorbed by each person for himself or herself, so that when they have absorbed them, their whole view of life will be different. So is this not kind of against freedom when it says they pressed each person to absorb freedom? So there is a tone mismatch, I believe, right in the beginning. Right, there are other problems also with A. ठीक है, वो अभी देखते हैं हम आगे. पहले एक बार पूरा पढ़ लेती हूँ पैराग्राफ में, राइट, सो दैट आई कैन टेल यू विच ऑल थिंग्स यू मिस्ड हियर. नाउ their whole view of life will be different. Why do they want this? Why do they want people to absorb, okay, these facts about human freedom? Because they want to change their view of life. Existentialism as a cultural movement belongs to the past. So now see this, as a cultural movement it remains ongoing. Doesn't it say as a cultural movement it belongs to the past? So if you are marking A, aren't you ignoring the paragraph itself? ऐसा लग रहा है आपने पैराग्राफ को ध्यान ही नहीं दिया if you've marked option A, because ये तो opposite चीज़ बोल रही है that it belongs to the past. Okay, but as a philosophy with this utterly practical mission, it can be as liberating to us as it was to men and women in war torn Europe. ठीक है, तो कल्चरल मूवमेंट की तरह तो इट बिलोंग्स टू द पास्ट, बट एज अ फिलोसफी इट इज़ प्रैक्टिकल एंड रेलिवेंट, है ना. तो गया ये ऑप्शन, राइट. बिकॉज not extreme, I would say this is false as per the passage. This is saying the opposite of what the passage is saying. ठीक है अभी. Now look at B. Existentialists sought cultural absorption of freedom. Cultural absorption. Where is this stated? That they wanted a cultural absorption of freedom. So do you see how, one mere word can distort an option? Choosing actions, values, and how to live, so views transform. Today, this mission is largely practical. You know what? It looks like a tempting option. In fact, I thought that you would get confused between B and C. But एक word से मुझे पता चल जाता है that cultural absorption थोड़ा odd लग रहा है. So, not that I will reject it right away. I will compare. Let's look at C. Existentialists sought to instill internalized freedom, बिकॉज वो हर पर्सन एब्जॉर्ब करेगा उस फ्रीडम को. ठीक है, तो क्या होगी वो इंटरनलाइज्ड फ्रीडम. इंटरनलाइज कर लेंगे उसको, सब अपने अंदर उतार लेंगे. दैट इज इंटरनलाइजिंग. चूजिंग एक्शंस, वैल्यूज एंड लाइफ, सो व्यूज ट्रांसफॉर्म. डिस्पाइट कल्चरल एक्लिप्स, because as a cultural movement it belongs to the past, right? So despite cultural eclipse, the philosophy can still liberate today. So ठीक है, as a cultural movement अभी relevant नहीं है, but as a philosophy it can still liberate us today. आया समझ? Now here see, I didn't explain the meaning of the paragraph in detail to you. मैंने ये नहीं करा. I just made you notice certain facts that okay, यहाँ पे culturally absorb नहीं है. They want people to choose for themselves. They want people to absorb, but they're not pressing each person to do that. Right? The absorption is not cultural in nature. So अगर आपको पूरा A to Z paragraph नहीं समझ में आया, even that is fine. Okay? Now D says existentialism primarily, okay, so be on the lookout for extreme words as well. Encouraged intellectual acceptance of human freedom in moral choice, not the personal absorption that transforms one's outlook. Weren't their aim to transform the whole view of life? तो ये तो again opposite बोल दी इसने बात. So this was easy to eliminate. Okay. Perfect. For most of the time, Somil, yes, most of the time, if my paragraph, see, the condition is that if my paragraph is not using extreme words, my ParaSummary cannot. बट अगर पैराग्राफ में ही प्राइमरीली या ऑलवेज ये सब दिया हुआ है, तब एक्सट्रीम नहीं होगा ऑप्शन में. सो इट डिपेंड्स ऑन व्हाट योर पैराग्राफ सेज. अ लॉट ऑफ टाइम्स पैराग्राफ्स आर माइल्ड, इसलिए मैंने बोला. ठीक है. एक्लिप्स मीन्स समथिंग. Okay, so if I say this is facing a cultural eclipse, right? Moral eclipse, cultural eclipse. मतलब कि cultural sense में it is not present today. Okay, so belongs to the past. So despite cultural eclipse, cultural sense में नहीं present है अभी society में, philosophy की तरह still liberate कर सकती है. Metaphorically use हुआ eclipse. ठीक है, चलो एक और क्वेश्चन देखते हैं फिर. क्वेश्चन नंबर 2. लेट्स सी व्हाट यू से हियर. I've got three responses as D, then one response as C. All right. So, what is ubiquitous? Now, this is your high frequency vocabulary, right? Ubiquitous ऐसा word नहीं है जो बहुत technical है, right? So, something that is omnipresent, something that pervades every area, जो हर जगह दिखता है, right? That is ubiquitous. So, eco-politics, now, these are certain words that are becoming increasingly common. Eco-politics, eco-anxiety, right? So, you can read a bit about it, and especially, with the protests in Delhi going on because of the AQI, these are also very relevant, very topical, है ना? तो अब देखते हैं आंसर क्या है. Eco-politics in a word has become ubiquitous. All right. So let's see. This says eco-politics pervades all arenas. This says eco-politics is ubiquitous. All right. This says eco-politics now dominates diverse agendas. Or okay, but it says subordinating other priorities. Option C. डिड यू फील दैट इन द पैराग्राफ कि बाकी सारी प्रायोरिटीज़ को वो सबॉर्डिनेट कर दिया उसने, अब ये ही सबसे रेलिवेंट है, बाकी सब कम रेलिवेंट है. डिड द पैराग्राफ से दैट? इट इज़ अ प्रेसिंग मैटर, नो डाउट, राइट? इट इज़ अ प्रेसिंग मतलब अर्जेंट मैटर है ऑन विच एवरी पॉलिटिकल एक्टर मस्ट टेक अ स्टैंड. बट ये तो नहीं बोला ना हमने कि उसने बाकी प्रायोरिटीज़ को सबॉर्डिनेट कर दिया, अब वो ऊपर इम्पॉर्टेंट है. सो सी शुड नॉट हैव बीन मार्क्ड. ठीक है. देन लेट्स हैव अ लुक एट बी. इको पॉलिटिक्स परवेड्स ऑल एरिनाज विद यूनिवर्सल अग्रीमेंट. लुक एट दिस नाउ अगेन. सी, एक्सट्रीम वर्ड्स आर नॉट ऑलवेज राइट. डेफिनेटली यूनिवर्सल का भी क्या मतलब हुआ? इट्स टू ब्रॉड, टू एक्सट्रीम, राइट? यूनिवर्सल अग्रीमेंट. whereas here it says there are growing numbers of people who now view global warming as a threat to life as we know it on planet earth. So growing numbers of people does not mean universal agreement, right? तो यहीं पे मैं सस्पिशियस हो गई इसके बारे में. ओके, D is the answer. Eco-politics is ubiquitous. Broad assent, growing numbers of people. Broad assent to climate science. ये क्लाइमेट साइंस ही हो गई ना, जब आपने रिकग्नाइज करा दैट यस ग्लोबल वार्मिंग इज अ थ्रेट टू लाइफ एज वी नो इट ऑन प्लानट अर्थ. इट को एग्जिस्ट्स विद एजेंडा ड्रिवन सुपरफिशियल कंसेंसस, right? And this consensus is very agenda driven and deep political dissensus. So here's a new word for you, dissensus, when people disagree over causes and remedies. तो किस बात पे अग्री नहीं कर रहे हम, राइट? क्या कॉजेज हैं, सोसाइटल फोर्सेज दैट ड्राइव दैट प्रोसेस, और द सोसाइटल चेंजेस रिक्वायर्ड टू स्टॉप इट. सो दे अग्री मोर और लेस ऑन द साइंस बट डिसअग्री मोर देन लेस ऑन द पॉलिटिक्स. मतलब कि काफ़ी डिसअग्री कर रहे हैं ऑन द पॉलिटिक्स, राइट? सो हियर इज़ द आंसर. आई एम हैप्पी नोबडी मार्क्ड ए, बट एक बार देख लेते हैं. Competing diagnoses of climate change generate dissensus that in turn propels eco-politics. ये cause effect relationship दिया हुआ है. When I read this, I felt ये कह रहे हैं कि ये cause है, okay, this is the cause and this is propelling eco-politics into ubiquity. इसकी वजह से eco-politics अब ubiquitous बन गई है because of this dissensus. ऐसा cause effect relationship तो नहीं दिया मेरे पैराग्राफ में कि ये रीज़न है जिसकी वजह से अब वो यूबिक्विटस है. तो फिर मैं कैसे अपने आप कर लूँ ये, है ना? तो ये हो गया डिस्टॉर्टेड. ठीक है, एंड हेंस आवर आंसर इज डी, दिल्ली. ओके, नाउ लेट्स गो टू द थर्ड पैरा. अटेम्प्ट दिस एंड टेल मी द आंसर. Okay, I've got two responses. All right. Good. Others? So see, now there is a consensus here, no dissensus. Everybody is saying that B is the answer and I agree B is the answer. This was an easy question. तो ऐसा question अगर exam में आए तो definitely we have to attempt it. Even though the paragraph seemed lengthy, the options, if you see, they are so easy because it says dominate entirely, extreme. Okay, it says solely, extreme. Okay, then this says yet fast changing domains ultimately set the limits. No, that is not given in the paragraph, that they fast changing domains ultimately set the limit. In fact, the author is kind of on the side of slow change, slow learning, that we need to actually see that part as well. Okay, so lessons, we need to look at the nature and culture and then integrate the two. Acha, A, okay. So tell me, see, it says that they change quickly, fashion and commerce, right? Infrastructure and governance, middling rates, बीच में है ये. Now, हमारी attention क्या रहती है? Fast changing elements की तरफ. So what do we forget? Look here, author's POV. We forget that the real power lies in the domains of deep, slow change. So isn't it kind of saying the opposite? What defines limits of what's possible for the quicker elements? Who is setting these limits? The slow elements, not the fast changing domains. Right? So not A. Also slow remembrance instead of deep remembrance in A. Okay, and here we say remember, deep remembering. Yes, even that could be a criterion. Deep remembering versus slow remembering. Okay, acknowledged. ठीक है, बट ये तो बिल्कुल ही ऑपोजिट स्टैंस ले रहा था ऑथर से. ऑपोजिट स्टैंस मतलब कि ऑथर जिस साइड में जा रहा है ये उससे उल्टी साइड में जा रहा है, तो इसलिए ये इजी क्वेश्चन था. ठीक है, चलो फिर चले नेक्स्ट पे. ऑल राइट, लेट्स सी व्हाट यू से फॉर दिस. I've got two responses. What about others? All right. Again, there is a consensus on C. Now, again, the passage appears to be slightly in the nature of political philosophy, है ना? कंज्यूमरिज्म के बारे में हम बात कर रहे हैं, हाउ टू रेजिस्ट अगेंस्ट सच कंज्यूमरिज्म. बट द ऑप्शंस, दे एक्चुअली they hinge, a lot of them hinge on understanding this sentence. So see the power of closing sentence, right? This one says bypasses digital markets. वो कह रहे हैं bypass नहीं करना है. you know you have to, fine, you are attacking it, but also you are taking the opportunity, looking at it as an opportunity rather than completely bypassing these markets. Okay, bypassing these platforms is the term that the author has used rather than markets, so to say. तो ये गलत हो गया in terms of what it is saying here versus what the author has said towards the end. B says, now again, dismantling platform capitalism. First of all, we haven't really used the word capitalism. Okay, not reimagining it as a site of political opportunity. Again, this is going against, opposite to what my para said. My para said that yes, it is also an opportunity. Okay, then D says, yes. I'll explain the paragraph as well, Simran. It merely needs stricter regulation and transparency, since consumerism's harms stem chiefly from hidden fees and deceptive platform design. Is this given in the paragraph that it needs stricter regulation and transparency? ये है paragraph में. Not given in the paragraph. This is alien to the paragraph, है ना? So I can't go beyond what is given in the paragraph in a ParaSummary question. मैं उसके beyond नहीं जा सकती हूँ, ठीक है? तो basically what this paragraph was saying was that a lot of times, when we are not able to do much when it comes to politics, what politics is doing to the country, we feel that there is a void, right? A void of political participation. हमारी इतनी participation है ही नहीं politics में. Then because there's a lack of democracy around us, within ourselves we feel as if there is a void. We feel a bit helpless, है ना? So I'm not crying because of this helplessness, but so हमें लगता है कि void है हमारी लाइफ में. तो consumerism क्या करता है ना, we kind of try to fill this void by purchasing more and more. हमें लगता है कहीं तो कंट्रोल है हमारी लाइफ में. Oh, here I have power. Maybe I don't have power in terms of political participation, but here I can buy stuff for myself. I have that power. So this is what consumerism does to you. It promises to fill a void created by the profound lack of democracy and political participation that many feel in their day-to-day lives. Okay, and platforms, basically it is talking about Amazon, Flipkart, these kind of platforms, Nykaa, Myntra, ये सब. Okay, as a platform fills a democratic void. Okay, overcoming it. I understand अभी कि ये यहाँ पर promises नहीं है, यहाँ पर वो fills ही कह रहा है. It fills a democratic void, which is, if you look at it, not really the intent of the paragraph. Okay, however, as I said in the beginning, हम क्या करते हैं, compare करते हैं options को, ठीक है, और उसके बाद हम appropriate mark करते हैं rather than ideal. अब अगर मैं compare करूँ इन options को, तो ये तो कुछ बिल्कुल ही ऑपोजिट ही ये बिल्कुल है ही नहीं पैराग्राफ में. ये ऑपोजिट चीज़ बोल रहा है. सिमिलरली ये भी वो बात नहीं बोल रहा है जो एंड में है, ये भी ऑपोजिट चीज़ बोल रहा है. सो जब मेरे पास इतनी वाइड अपार्ट ऑप्शंस हैं जो बिल्कुल ऑपोजिट चीज़ें बोल रही हैं, बिल्कुल ऐसा कुछ बोल रही हैं जो है ही नहीं, तो मैं इतनी सी गलती बर्दाश्त कर लूँगी फिर, बिकॉज मेरे पास ऑप्शन नहीं है ना, और कोई आइडियल ऑप्शन है ही नहीं. ठीक है, अभी void created by the lack of democracy. Simran, not democracy, void created by the lack of democracy. ये है, ठीक है. So democratic void here roughly approximates to that. Democratic void roughly approximates to that. ठीक है. A void created a void that is related to democracy, that would be a democratic void. हाँ, democratic void का मतलब democracy नहीं है, ये होगा मीनिंग. तो lack of democracy से मैच कर रहा है वो. Okay, so see, no sawmill, Good old cold and cough. Thankfully, no sinusitis. So, C is the answer here. आई अंडरस्टैंड अभी. तो यहाँ पर हमारे पास परफेक्ट ऑप्शंस नहीं थे, बट एक्चुअली इम्परफेक्ट में हमें देखना था सबसे कम इम्परफेक्ट कौन सी है. ठीक है. और अगर आपने ये चीज़ें पकड़ ली, ऑपोजिट ऑपोजिट एंड एलियन, तो ये क्वेश्चन इतना डिफिकल्ट नहीं था. ठीक है. ओके, ऑल राइट. चलो लेट्स सी द वेरी शॉर्ट पैराग्राफ. लेट्स सी व्हाट यू से. Okay. So I've got A and D. It's A versus D in the chat box. ठीक है, चलो. While we live, we all present different facets, different aspects, different perspectives of ourselves to different people. Whether in our friendships, work, family, or at different times in our lives, we encounter others. All remember us slightly differently. So I may be a very nice person to my friend, but probably not to my family, right? Just giving an example. So all remember us slightly differently according to their perspective. So this is a very powerful sentence, I believe, that we always think we are not nice people, but actually people remember us according to their perspective. While we live, our physical presence holds that multiplicity together. जब तक हम जिंदा होते हैं तो ये हमारी जो फिजिकल प्रेजेंस होते हैं, क्योंकि हम प्रेजेंट होते हैं, तो ये जो मल्टीपल पर्सपेक्टिव्स हैं हमारे बारे में, दे आर हेल्ड टुगेदर. आफ्टर वी डाई दो द मेमोरीज बिगिन टू कम अपार्ट. ठीक है. तो वंस वी डाई द मेमोरीज बिगिन टू कम अपार्ट. हमारी जो मेमोरीज हैं प्रॉब्ली दे बिकम मोर फ्रैगमेंटेड, प्रॉब्ली देर इज़ नो कोहेरेंट नैरेटिव एज टू हु वी आर, हाउ वी वर. ठीक है. दैट इज़ वॉट हैज़ बीन सेड. चलो अब देख लेते हैं. क्यूट वीडियोज इज लाइक 1,000 times D. We consciously present curated selves to suit roles. Is this saying that हम कॉन्शियसली ऐसे प्रेजेंट करते हैं? बहुत ही कॉन्शियस चॉइस होती है किसको कैसा दिखाना है, टू सूट आवर रोल्स. आफ्टर डेथ शेयर्ड रिमेम्बरेंस वीव्स दीज फैसेट्स इनटू अ कोहेरेंट लेगेसी. नो, आफ्टर डेथ तो उल्टा हो रहा है. द मेमोरीज कम अपार्ट, कोहेरेंट लेगेसी नहीं रहती है. तो ये अगेन ऑपोजिट बोल रहा है भाई. प्लीज नोटिस. D is the answer. Yes, good. Those who said D. While alive, our presence loosely unifies. क्योंकि हम फिजिकली प्रेजेंट होते हैं तो हमारे जो मैनी सेल्व्स हैं, तो हमारी प्रेजेंस उनको लूजली यूनिफाई कर देती है, द मैनी सेल्व्स दैट अदर्स परसीव. आफ्टर डेथ दोज डिफरिंग मेमोरीज ड्रिफ्ट अपार्ट इनटू सेपरेट वर्जन्स. तो ये मेमोरीज जो हैं बाद में आपके जो फ्रेंड की भी आपकी जो मेमोरीज हैं वो अलग अलग वर्जन्स में ना वो ड्रिफ्ट अपार्ट करने लगेंगी. राइट, दैट इज़ द आइडिया. चलो ठीक है, डी इज़ द आंसर. एनीबडी वाज थिंकिंग ऑफ बी एंड सी? कोई सोच रहा था क्या? टेल मी. ये तो बिल्कुल अगेन सी नॉट मियर प्रेजेंस. नो, the author is saying our physical presence holds together. This says not mere presence keeps the versions aligned. So again please notice, chala gaya ye bilkul opposite. Okay, and then this says our many selves remain fragmented even when we are alive. No. Okay, at that point our physical presence is holding it together, not keeping it fragmented. कितने सारे आज ऑप्शंस में ये वाला एरर है ना. सो पैरासमरी डजंट ऑलवेज हैव टू बी अबाउट वेरी इंट्रिकेट एरर्स. अ लॉट ऑफ टाइम्स व्हाट हैपेंस इज स्टूडेंट्स फील पैराग्राफ इतना डिफिकल्ट था, पढ़ते पढ़ते दे माइट गेट आई मीन द मीनिंग माइट गेट अ लिटिल मडल्ड इन देयर हेड्स, एंड दैट्स वाई समटाइम्स हम बहुत ऑब्वियस चीज़ें इग्नोर कर देते हैं. फॉर एग्जाम्पल इन दिस वन. ठीक है, ये नहीं करना है हमें. एंड अगर 2 to 3 पैरासमरी क्वेश्चंस आते हैं एग्जाम में, देन वी हैव टू ट्राई एंड अटेम्प्ट एटलीस्ट 2 out of 3, राइट? ओके, लेट्स सी दिस वन. Okay, got 2 responses. Let's see what the others say. That's okay, Tabish. एक बार analyze करो. One off is like a one off low mark is okay, right? It's not a judgment on all the other marks. And one off सबकी prep में होता है ऐसे, ठीक है? So don't get disheartened. All right. तो काफ़ी C's आ रहे हैं chat box में, and just a couple of D's. Let's see. So now it's a very, I find that the paragraph is quite interesting because it is the kind of paragraph that can, you know, if you implement it in your life, it can help you to prevent what we call an echo chamber. What do you understand by this echo chamber? if I just talk to those people who hold the same views as I do, right? है ना? तो what will happen is I will never be exposed to opposing views. And when that happens, we just, our beliefs get ossified. Ossified मतलब क्या होता है? Rigid हो जाते हैं. हम कभी भी अपने व्यूज़ को रिवाइज ही नहीं करते हैं, राइट? yes, we limit our circle to our current opinions, and we as people, human beings, don't grow, right? Okay, so it says ideally, we would want to converse with someone open and trusting, curious and good with words, but this is not always the case, and it often takes ingenuity, cleverness and persistence to jumpstart a good conversation, right? While it is true that partisanship has become more pronounced in recent years, partisanship when you hold different views, especially political views, it has become more pronounced, has increased in recent years. I don't think this is irreparable. Probing and spirited engagement can break apart rigid patterns of thought. अगर हम थोड़ी सी प्रोबिंग मतलब एनालाइज करके थोड़ा डीप में जाके और स्पिरिटेड लाइवली एंगेजमेंट के साथ कॉन्वर्सेशन करेंगे तो हमारे जो रिजिड पैटर्न्स ऑफ थॉट है वो ब्रेक हो जाएंगे एंड इट विल ब्रिंग टू बेयर अ मोर जेनरस एंड फ्लेक्सिबल व्यू ऑफ थिंग्स. इससे हमारा व्यू ऑफ थिंग्स फ्लेक्सिबल हो जाएगा. I have experienced the exhilaration of having an insight in the course of a conversation that did not fit with my pre-existing ideas, and of connecting with someone I might otherwise have written off, right? Most of us fear talking about important subjects with people we know who disagree with us. This happens, right? That even for instance in my family WhatsApp group I say we will not discuss politics because we all have very different views. So we fear talking about important subjects with people we know who disagree with us, much like we fear talking to people about the untimely death of a loved one. And yet these conversations are often secretly what both parties crave. Now I want to talk politics with them, but I'm just afraid it might spoil the relationship, right? तो उस टाइप का पैराग्राफ है ये, एंड द ऑथर इज एनकरेजिंग अस टू हैव दीज कॉन्वर्सेशंस. ओके, and now let's look at the options. A says good conversations primarily require open, trusting and articulate partners. Without such conditions, it says engagement seldom yields meaningful insight. seldom होगी ही नहीं, बहुत रेयरली मीनिंगफुल इंसाइट आएगी अगर आपका जो पार्टनर है जिससे आप बात कर रहे हो वो ओपन, ट्रस्टिंग और आर्टिकुलेट नहीं है. क्या ये ऑथर का स्टैंस है? नो. ऑथर कह रहा है ये तो हमेशा नहीं होगा ना कि आपको ऐसा ही पर्सन मिले बात करने के लिए. सो एलिमिनेटेड. B says as polarization deepens, prudence favors avoiding contentious topics until trust rebuilds. Otherwise, such conversations intensify division rather than producing generous understanding. मुझे बताओ, अगर जिसने B बोला है, क्या ये सेम स्टैंस है जो ऑथर ने लिया है पैराग्राफ में? ये तो कह रहा है मत करो यार बातें, अवॉइड करो कंटेंशियस टॉपिक्स पे बात करना, नहीं तो डिवीजन और बढ़ जाएगी. ऑथर कह रहा है, ऑथर इनकरेज कर रहा है कि करो ऐसी बातें विद पेशेंस. ठीक है. Despite rising partisanship and fear, probing conversations across differences can unsettle rigid views, ossified patterns of thought, spark insight. Author बोल रहे हैं ना, उसको भी insight मिली, right? And create sought after connections, and we will connect with people we might otherwise write off. The answer has C, and a lot of you said C. Good. And those who said B and D, अब एक बार D भी देख लेते हैं. Spirited exchanges across value divides reliably dissolve entrenched views and reconcile opponents. Okay, proving. अब मुझे बताओ, ossified means rigid, yes. Proving that conversation alone can mend today's partisan fractures. Proving or alone, क्या है ये? These couple of people who marked D, आरंट दे एक्सट्रीम? क्या ऑथर कह रहा है कि कॉन्वर्सेशन से ही सब कुछ ठीक हो जाएगा? नो. ओके, सो ये एक्सट्रीम है. सी इज आर आंसर. ऑलराइट, सो दिस वॉज अ मिक्स ऑफ ईजी एंड I would say moderate to difficult questions today. Okay, none of the options were such जहाँ पर बहुत ज़्यादा ही आपको. अच्छा, there are more questions. चलो कर लेते हैं दोनों भी. Let's do these questions. Okay, so let's see what you say to this one. अच्छा, there's a query. Isn't being in an echo chamber what everyone likes? Yes, all of us like us. Absolutely. It's comfortable to be in an echo chamber, but are we just seeking comfort in our lives, or do we want to have informed opinions? Yes, it's a choice that we have to make, right? It's like exercise. A lot of times we don't like it, but that does not mean it's not good for us. है ना? चलो, let's see another question. Okay, got 2 responses. What about others? Okay, A, all right. D, B, okay, diverse responses. That's it? Just 4 responses? Acha, A, all right. So, A, B and D. That's okay. C also. सब आ गया इसमें. ठीक है. Let's have a look. So, narrative. First of all, you need to know the meaning of this word, and I'm sure a lot of you do. In its very basic form, it means telling a story, but it is also a term that is used in a layered way. A narrative could be a story which has been popularized in order to serve some agenda. ठीक है, सो दैट इज़ ऑल्सो द मीनिंग ऑफ नैरेटिव. अब देखते हैं यहाँ पे क्या मीनिंग है नैरेटिव का. नैरेटिव एज एक्सप्लेनेशन वन सीम टू बिलोंग टू एन ओल्डर पैराडाइम, कि हम एक्सप्लेन करने के लिए स्टोरीज़ का यूज़ करते थे पुराने टाइम में. वन एलैबोरेटेड लार्जली इन द 19th century, द गोल्डन एज ऑफ हिस्टोरिकल एंड एवोल्यूशनरी थॉट. बट नाउ इट इज़ बैक as if to emphasize that the time boundedness of human life is the crucial human problem. तो अब दोबारा से नैरेटिव इज़ बैक. ओके, जैसे कि इसलिए वापस आई हो एज इफ इट वॉन्ट्स टू एम्फेसाइज दैट द टाइम बाउंडेडनेस ऑफ ह्यूमन लाइफ इज़ द क्रूशियल ह्यूमन प्रॉब्लम. तो ये किस कॉन्टेक्स्ट में यूज़ हो रहा है वो क्लियर हो जाता है नेक्स्ट सेंटेंस से. मॉर्टैलिटी. Mortality can perhaps best be dealt with in story form. Whatever meanings life may have or fail to have develop through time. As the finale of Lin-Manuel Miranda's Hamilton asks with a poignancy is when something is very emotional and painful, to which any of us can respond, who lives, who dies, who tells your story, right? So mortality is something that we can talk about best in the form of narrative. Okay, now uh, I think most of you've said A, C. If I'm not wrong, एक आध डी भी आया था, हाँ कुछ डीज भी आए थे शुरू में. Let's look at B and D. Narrative once abandoned. Okay, first of all, I have issues with the word abandoned, but आगे देखते हैं. Is now embraced to explore the temporal nature of life, highlighting the impermanence of existence. Okay, temporal nature of life versus time boundedness of human life. Boundedness थोड़ा constraint show कर रहा है ना, rather than just saying that life का nature है कि वो उस time के हिसाब से चलती है, right? तो ऐसा नहीं था वो पहले, हमने बिल्कुल अबैंडन कर दिया था, अब हम उसे एम्ब्रेस कर रहे हैं. दीज आर एक्सट्रीम आइडियाज़. ओके, इट सीम्ड टू बिलोंग टू एन ओल्डर पैराडाइम, मतलब कि अब वो इतना लेट्स से यूज़ नहीं होता. इसका मतलब ये नहीं हमने अबैंडन ही कर दिया, अबैंडन कर दिया उसको. सो इंटेंट का डिफरेंस है वर्ड्स में, ठीक है. अच्छा, और सो ऑल्सो मोर्टैलिटी की बात ही नहीं हो रही है. आई फील मोर्टैलिटी की तो बात होनी चाहिए, बिकॉज यही दिखा रहे हैं हम अब नैरेटिव के थ्रू, स्टोरीज के थ्रू. सो नहीं होगा ये आंसर. डी सेज द रिसर्जेंस ऑफ नैरेटिव, दोबारा आना नैरेटिव का, हाईलाइट्स हाउ ह्यूमन एग्जिस्टेंस इवॉल्व्स थ्रू टाइम. ओके, ऑल राइट, with mortality becoming central to the story. Okay, now this is a good and tempting option, right? But compare it with A. Narrative once seen as outdated. Okay, so once it was seen as outdated, is now revisited. Okay, it is now back, it is now revisited. So it is capturing the flow to frame mortality and the human struggle within time's constraints. The human struggle, time boundedness of human life is the crucial human problem. ह्यूमन लाइफ की सबसे क्रूशल, सबसे नहीं बट क्रूशल प्रॉब्लम क्या है? द टाइम बाउंडेडनेस ऑफ ह्यूमन लाइफ. सो दिस इज समथिंग दैट दिस इज कैप्चरिंग. ओके, while this is not capturing that, it is more neutral in saying human life evolves through time. Meaning of human life evolves through time, may develop through time. तो इन दोनों में flow of the paragraph और in fact the tone of the paragraph is captured by A over D. Does it make sense? No, temporal is not the same as fleeting. Ephemeral is fleeting. ठीक है, temporal simply means related to time. C says it was once seen, ठीक है यहाँ पे सही है, is now seen as essential for addressing human mortality and the time bounded nature of life. Okay, so now this here is also not capturing the tone that well. Also essential एक तो extreme है, ऊपर से जो tone है human problem, ठीक है, वो वाली tone capture नहीं हो रही है. So A is the best choice. It is capturing all of the ideas that are important and the flow. Why not C? देखो, is now seen as essential. It says it is now back. It is now back. वो वापस आ गया है. इसका मतलब ये थोड़ी है कि वो essential है. Now seen as essential. ठीक है, अशना एक्सट्रीम था essential word यहाँ पे. All right. And here is the last question. Let's see what you say. करो mark. Okay. So, excellent. Excellent. C is the answer here. Okay. Uh, because you here did not just have to talk about reclaiming the mathematical tools. This is, see, that kind of a question where you don't just have to stick to what is there in the beginning, which is what B does. कैसे reclaim करेंगे ये भी तो बताना है ना, ठीक है? So, this is the way to reclaim it. Okay. Now, this is distorted. D, it says that it allows ordinary people to apply complex formulas to solve everyday challenges, whereas look at this, it said that when we present it in a more inclusive light, focusing not only on the formulas that techies and quants use to get ahead, but also on how ordinary people can use these formulas to confront the challenges faced in everyday life. So they are confronting these challenges, right? Not solving everyday challenges. So math is portrayed as an elite skill. पहली बात तो ये पॉइंट मिसिंग है डी में. डी सबसे शुरू में इनकम्प्लीट है, बट इट कैन बी प्रेजेंटेड इन एन इंक्लूसिव वे. तो ये पॉइंट है दोनों में. दैट हेल्प्स एवरीडे पीपल कन्फ्रंट डेली चैलेंजेस, नॉट सॉल्व विच वुड बिकम एक्सट्रीम, बट कन्फ्रंट डेली चैलेंजेस. ठीक है. सी में मेन आइडिया क्या है? दैट वी नीड टू reclaim mathematical tools, right? So how do we reclaim them? By presenting math in an inclusive way. Because currently क्या हो रहा है ना, just these quant people, by them I mean these analysts, right? Quantitative analysts, they use formula in a very elite manner Excel sheet में, ठीक है? Something only prodigies and savants can do. Prodigies, people who are intelligent beyond their age, show exceptional talent. Savants, again, exceptionally talented people. But this is a myth. So the author is saying that ये myth है, इसको challenge करना है. कैसे challenge करना है? This is how we can challenge it, by presenting math in a more inclusive light. And how will we present it? उसका भी उसने दिया हुआ है. तो हमें ये चीज़ें बताना ज़रूरी है कि मैथ को present elite करा जाता है, but we need to reclaim it by making it more inclusive, so that, you know, in a way that helps everyday people confront the challenges, daily challenges, everyday challenges. So yes, can use these formulas. You are right. ये part नहीं problematic है, ठीक है? So that ordinary people, but also on how they can use these formulas. So this is not the part that is problematic. These are the parts that are missing. Elite skill वाला part that is missing, and solve is extreme. ठीक है. Now D seems too narrow. Math accessible and relatable. Absolutely, Piyush. Absolutely. Okay. Should I change my strategy to question and then RC? Himani, I would not suggest it, because अगर RC नहीं read करा हुआ ना, तो then the options won't make a lot of sense to you. You'll just get confused and probably a little biased also before reading the RC. So RC के बाद ही questions पे जाना is a good strategy. Okay, in CAT at least. Okay, अभी saying D again. Yes, C, D और C compare करते हैं. चलो आओ. D says inclusively presenting math allows ordinary people. तो इसने तो बस सोल्यूशन पर फोकस करा ना. हमारा ऑथर प्रॉब्लम पे भी फोकस कर रहा है. प्रॉब्लम क्या है कि करंटली मैथ को ऐसे पोर्ट्रे करते हैं, पर ये मिथ है, इसको चैलेंज करना है. तो इसने प्रॉब्लम वाले पार्ट पे तो फोकस ही नहीं करा एट दिस वेरी स्टेज इट सेल्फ. ओके, यू आर सेइंग चलो बियॉन्ड जस्ट इट्स यूज बाय एक्सपर्ट्स में भी चलो मान लेते हैं कि हमने थोड़ा सा फोकस कर लिया उस चीज़ पे. अग्रीड, I agree with you. ठीक है, but the point is that I am not showing that there is any problem there. Okay, हम कह रहे हैं कि अगर हम इंक्लूसिव करेंगे तो ऐसे ऐसे उसके हेल्प होगी बियॉन्ड जस्ट इट्स यूज बाय एक्सपर्ट्स. बट प्रॉब्लम खाली इतनी नहीं है कि अभी खाली एक्सपर्ट्स यूज़ कर रहे हैं. प्रॉब्लम यह है कि उसको पोर्ट्रे ऐसे करा जा रहा है दैट खाली वही कर सकते हैं. यू नो, इट इज़ बीइंग पोर्ट्रेड एज समथिंग दैट इज एलीट. सो इट इज़ नॉट कैप्चरिंग द प्रॉब्लम फुली. And second problem is that these complex formulas are not being used to solve, they are being used to face, confront the challenges. Okay, confront is not the same as solving. All right, so this is just focused on the solution here, this वाला पार्ट, इतना पार्ट बस बता रहा है आपको ऑप्शन डी, वेयर एज आपका ऑप्शन सी यहाँ से सब कुछ कवर कर रहा है, यहाँ से लेके यहाँ तक. ठीक है. मेरे साथ ऑप्शन एलिमिनेशन, आई अंडरस्टैंड दैट. ओके, सो ऑप्शन एलिमिनेशन में हमें हमेशा क्लोज रीडिंग करनी है, कंपैरिजन करना है, जो मैंने शुरू में भी बोला था. ठीक है, हमें ये फोकस करना है कि कौन सी ऑप्शन मेजॉरिटी ऑफ द पैराग्राफ को कवर कर रही है, बिकॉज ये पैरा समरी है, राइट. तो अब यहाँ पर ये क्लियर केस था कि ये उतना फुली कवर नहीं कर रही है जितना सी कर रही है, राइट. सो फ्लो के साथ भी मैच कर रही है ना. पहले हमने पोर्ट्रेट की बात करी, पोर्ट्रेट की बात करी, फिर उसके बाद सोल्यूशन की बात करी, सोल्यूशन की बात करी. ये फ्लो के बेसिस पर ही मैंने बोला था ना कि इसमें भी ये फ्लो से मैच हो रहा है ऑप्शन है. सो फोकस ऑन दिस एज वेल. ठीक है. ऑल राइट, थैंक यू फॉर अटेंडिंग एंड yes, I'll take care. Welcome all of you. Bye bye. See you.